Morning, everybody. How are you going? Hope you're well. As always, let me know if you can or cannot hear me properly. I'm trying a slightly different setup this time. Hopefully, I won't be saying big jump anymore because I've broken the window out to see more of the comments. Anyway, let's get to it. Mainly today, I'd like to discuss mainly the last video centered around, particularly when people are dating, or when you ask people about what they want two opposing things at the same time, where they think they're keeping their options open depending on what comes around. But really, when you take one stance and go down one path, you're really negating another. But if you stand in the middle, you get nothing, or you get the chances of you getting either or is slim. And the more you go towards, say, hooking up and dating very casually and being very free and never committing and so on and so forth, it's an addictive lifestyle. It's very freeing, and you'll enjoy it. In the short term, there's no downside. It's very liberating, especially if you've come from Shawshank, you've been in an awful marriage, or you've been living in a situation where it's very claustrophobic, and you found yourself as though you were in a figurative prison. It feels like, oh, this feels wonderful. I am never going back. And then after a while, even if you are open to something large, something more committed, something more monogamous, it'll be hard to come out of it because the freedom's really good. But at the same time, if you're longing for something that you need to relinquish some of that freedom, then that's where the problems happen. So we've got about just over 50 people now. 70, sorry. Good. You can hear me? All right. Let's the first comment under the last video, Sierra said, when people mask their true self to facilitate a relationship, they will only end up resenting you anyway. Yeah, because they're playing along with the situation. They're not saying exactly what they want. They're not operating in the mode of the person they want to be, that they want to represent themselves as. It's kind of akin, I'd say, to starting a new job and walking and quacking like a duck just to keep your job in the probation period. You want to remain there. You want to have the security of a job. And so you act and talk the way they want you to. But it's frustrating because you're not representing yourself properly. You lied in the interview. You continue to censor and lie about who you are, how you speak, who the person that you are is. Now, obviously, I'm exaggerating when I'm talking about being at a job scenario, but it's effectively the same thing. Think about especially if you've ever worked in corporate and you have a HR department and there's a lot of political correctness, how much you need to act and be very, very formal. It may not be, you may not necessarily be acting like somebody else, like in a play or a movie, but to some degree you are, because it's so formal. It's like when you go to church, or if you go to a wedding, or if you go to any place where you have to dress a certain way, manage how you speak. You're basically not the same way you are with your best friends, watching a movie, having a pizza. and being completely relaxed without any filter at all, not worrying about what anyone else say. That's the difference. So when a lot of people operate under, I've got a well-paying corporate job scenario, and they operate the same way with, I've got someone I really like and I don't want to lose them, as well as, it's akin to, I don't want to lose this high-paying job, and you act in the same way in both of these scenarios, I think this is where the problem lies. Nathan says, when do you think we finally stop projecting at work? Depends on how much you've done it, how much you faked it at the start. And similarly, I'd say people who have romantic relationships where they fake it a lot at the start. And then there's part of them that doesn't like themselves, going like, oh, if I come out now and completely relax and say everything I want and who I am, I'm going to feel like a fraud. It's going to cause problems. And they're right, which is why you should be as honest as you can right from the get-go. But there's a level of tact by which you can do it. That's why I say learn to speak, think, write better as a person. And so whether it's in a corporate environment, you can honestly articulate yourself and express who you are, your needs, your boundaries, what you will and won't do. If you're just a yes machine to an overbearing boss, or a yes machine to your overbearing romantic partner, no matter how much you want and like them and want to stay around them for whatever benefit you think you want to be around the boss or the girlfriend or whatever, you got to be honest about that. Like, that's where you're going to stay now. That's your life. It's not something transient like, okay, I can hold my breath for 5 minutes being around this person, or I can walk into this company, or I can do a contract job for a few months or however very long, and I'll get a big payout. But it's a small little blimp in the radar of what my life is, and I'm open-eyed, willing to take that hit for the reward of the money or whatever. But if you're lying to yourself and the other person about, yeah, this is completely great, and you feel like you need a lot of time away from them, or you need a lot of time away from your job, you hate your job so much that it's like, oh, you can't wait for the weekend. Again, it's your life. Thinking Atheist asked, should you lie to protect a deep, shameful personal secret? That's a really good question. If the shameful secret, I had this discussion yesterday with my sister and brother-in-law, where I always think you should not lie, or you do. I know it's difficult sometimes. Sometimes you place yourself in a hard place, but a lie that affects directly the relationship, it's just going to sort of be cancerous. You're not going to enjoy being in the relationship because it's something you're hiding. If it's something that's got nothing to do with the other person, I think it's up to you whether or not you want to tell them. If you know that, if you're completely blunt and you know the person's got sensitivities, or for one reason or another, it'll make life worse, but really it has absolutely nothing to do with them. And I'm not talking about something you're lying about, like you were a prostitute before, and you say, well, it's got nothing to do with me now. I've got no diseases. That's in my past. But you know that morally and ethically, it would destroy their lives, the people around them. They'd see you as a completely different person, etc., etc. Something foundational. I think you should be as completely honest as possible. Again, learn how to convey yourself properly, so it's presented in a way that is you. But if it's something that, there's a lot of, I think there's nothing wrong with omitting the absolute truth in things like, do I look fat in this dress? You don't want to be cold all the time. You want to think of the other person, preempt, especially if you know what they're like. You don't need to be without tact and rude. So you can say, no, you look fine, or you might want to lose a little bit of weight, or if someone serves you a meal regularly, and they're really wondering what food you like, whether or not their cooking is good, because they're really into it. If you say every meal is fantastic and it's blowing me away, that's nice. But if the person really wants to gauge what your favorite food is, that's not good either. So I think you need to gauge, honestly, whether omitting the truth or lying, if it's central to the relationship, you should tell the truth. And I always try to. And predominantly because I feel a weight off my shoulders. I'm off the hook. I'm completely free. I can breathe easy. I can sleep well at night. I'm not nervous around them. I don't have to micromanage and censor my language. So it's a very good question, though. Polonium says, small innocent lies are the grease that keeps relationships going, but big lies are a fool's errand. Yes. More or less along the same lines as I was just saying now. Yep. Spec Ops. How to tell when a woman is lying. Well, you know, my first instinct is to be facetious, but let's be serious and be honest when you're talking to someone. Don't be afraid to ask the questions that are on your mind. Like a lot of times, especially with guys' instincts, we notice something like, oh, here's a question. Oh, I won't say that. I won't ask that because that will ruin the mood. That won't get her into bed. It's like, no. If there's a red flag popping up, talk about it, ask it, be completely free, first and foremost for yourself. So you're enjoying the conversation time with the person, and you get used to being in the mode of, I feel good and free around this person. But if you're in the mode of, oh, censor, I've got to stop myself. How do I talk to her? She doesn't like this. She doesn't like that. You won't enjoy yourself in front of this person. So that's the main reason why I encourage you to be honest, free, learn how to articulate yourself, because your life is better with this person or any person around you. So in terms of how to tell if a woman's lying, I'd say is be completely honest. And if there's any questions, if you want to drill into questions, if you learn how to speak and learn how to articulate yourself properly, you can ask any question nicely. And it'll even sound sympathetic. And it's not me telling you how to game somebody, but it's like you want to ask them a touchy question like, well, how did your last relationship end, or why did you and your husband divorce? You get the fear out of that sort of approaching that question. It's like you learn how to say, oh, sympathetically, like, oh, so what happened? With both the expression on your face and how you communicate it. You'll get the answer that'll make you feel better, and the way you talk to them, it'll people like opening up. People like conversations where they can feel connected to a person. People are sick of surface conversation, especially when it's intimate one-on-one, when you're on a date or friends or whatever it might be. Conversations are so much better when people are willing to ask really interesting, not rude questions, but questions of depth. B. Dangerfield, human, you're looking bald. When have I never looked bald, man? Yeah, Dangerfield, you actually answered the question in the way I was going to, but I didn't. I want us not to be entertained with this information too much, which I do want to. I want guys to enjoy my videos, and I want these conversations not only to be edifying, but to also be enjoyable. But I don't want this kind of stuff just to be fun and video game-like. I understand there's a lot of channels, and I watch them too. They're great. They're fun to listen to. Oh, look at what women did, and let's make fun of them. Let's laugh at them the way they laugh at us. Oh, they think we're stupid. Look how dumb they are. They're 10 times dumber than us. Okay. But when you go back out into the world and you're in front of your boss or family members that you can't speak to, or women that you're a yes machine in front of them, it doesn't help you. If you know it's a serious problem, take it seriously. You can still take it seriously with a smile on your face, which is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to keep it casual, the conversation, keep it light, keep it fun, but it is serious fun, because that's what you're doing when you're going out there. If you're on a date, it's serious fun. When it's just sort of fun and like, yeah, well, I'll just roll the dice. Who cares? There are a lot of men who have stepped on landmines that'll tell you no. Okay. Let's move my windows around a bit. Okay, let's go to the next comment from Seri. Cherry? I'm not sure. I think it's a she. She says, I think that being truthful about who you are and what you value is important. I agree. It prevents people from getting hurt. Yes and no, like I described before. Sometimes blunt truths hurt. Sometimes omitting something you know will hurt somebody, as long as it doesn't, you know it's not going to really affect their life. Especially with you. It's a tricky one, but you need to make the call, I suppose. However, I think that you have to give information thoughtfully and appropriately. Okay, yeah, exactly what I was just saying. If my husband had blurted out the totality of his experience on the first date, I would have been completely overwhelmed and things would have ended there. This explains probably why a lot of my first dates maybe didn't go somewhere, and some of them found it refreshing. I can probably see from objectively from another woman's point of view how, depending on what she's like, I can come off in her eyes as a little overwhelming. I can see that. She continues, like it or not, people do respond to feedback and adjust their responses to find what does work with others. Yes, we want to get along and belong, but do these changes take away from the authenticity of your truth? Yeah, I don't like that term, your truth. There's only truth. There's only your experience, your ideas, your opinion. But I know what you mean. You can't compromise away self in the search for belonging. There is no emotional reward for not truly where was I? There's no emotional reward for not truly being known, but yet belonging. Since we don't ask men out, we have to try to attract the person who we want, that is right for us. Okay, so it is a female. Okay, but in this day and age, where yes, women will say yes to the independence of a lot of things that they didn't have access to before, there's also the responsibility now. You do need to not just ask men, but be honest with men, if nothing else. Even if you don't ask men, be honest in your communications, less aloof, because women, like it or not, women have made themselves more on their own. So being as passive as they were before, I think, is making women's lives worse, given the situation they've found themselves in, or put themselves in, not found themselves in. She continues, we have to think about the way we package ourselves to draw that person. Again, aloof, covert, indirect, trying to get what you want. Women can't do it anymore. They've placed themselves in this position, and they let the F word people, they've allowed them to place themselves in this position. It is learned by trial and error. There is a lack of authenticity in that because you are not showing the entire truth of yourself at once. Exactly. Women need to be more honest and truthful in their communication. Men do too. But men have always had to struggle with that. Otherwise, they don't get dates. They don't get anywhere. Men have to be more forthcoming with their actions and also with who they are, because women sort of sit there and observe and then let their guards down and say, okay, I trust this guy enough. Because women tend to have a lot more to lose, the eggs being out of commission for 9 to 10 months, whereas a guy can spray and pray. But we shouldn't either in this time. So this is a odd kind of time in history where both men and women, they forced us into an, not equality, but an equal way of having to operate given the laws and how we structured things. So if anything, we in an equal way, we should be trying to communicate as equally as we can in terms of honesty and openness and being as forthcoming as we can. Brad, thank you for the super chat donation. He says, I hate lying, I hate liars, I like honesty. Me too. Rocky says, make a part 2 of Seeing the Hook. Yeah, that's a nice little video that's it's always been consistently popular. Don't know what it is about it. It's from memory, I know why I like making that video. It's a nice sharp kind of message about one particular topic. Maybe, yeah. I'll keep it in mind. B. Dangerfield, 100% with you, human. Love your serious side. See? There's people that tell me I don't smile enough. I get a few responses every week. It's, oh, this is too much of a downer. This is too black-pilled. I need to be more upbeat. You can't please everybody. Richard, serious fun oxymoron. It is a little bit. It's kind of the way of understanding that this information is very serious in the way you approach it, so then life can be easy and fun afterwards because you've filtered it through the serious side when you needed to, i.e. being in a job and staying in a job you love and being as much of you as you can and not putting up with much, or being as much of you or as like completely you as you can, especially in front of a romantic partner, because you want to be free in front of them as much as you are in front of your family and friends. This is the one thing that always stood out for me as I got older, like a sore thumb, that all the other relationships in my life, especially the relaxed, personal, meaningful ones, like family and friends, I was myself. But here was ostensibly the most special relationship, and I was at a job that I was nervous about. You could argue I shouldn't have been that way. Yeah, I agree. But you combine biology with the rules of how you're supposed to conduct yourself, especially today, the rules of what women expect. You know, you're supposed to still be this chivalrous, antiquated guy, while they're the product of Germaine Greer, indirectly or directly. Hydrostatic says, everybody lies. That's from Dr. House. Ivan says, this is quite simple. If you are being asked a direct question, don't lie. Otherwise, you can leave out some details. That's actually a really good way of putting it succinctly. I've said this before to ex-partners when they ask me opinion and I honestly tell them, and they get annoyed, or they do the opposite. So they didn't want my honest opinion. They just wanted me to agree with them. And after a while, sometimes I get annoyed and I say, next time, can you not ask me a question? Just tell me what you want me to say, please. Braddles, morning human from Rosebud. The PTSD that arises from keeping concern bottled up and lying to avoid conflict is crippling. Yes, I agree. Quickly spiraling into anxiety, we must express with expediency. Exactly. I remember a personal sort of story with my last serious relationship. I remember when we started to get to know each other after a couple of initial dates, and you know, keeping each other at arm's length, and then when we had one or two conversations where it was really evident, like we really connected, and I really wanted to I'm not a fan of dating. I don't like the merry-go-round. It's just a waste of time between so many different women. It's like I don't value spending all my time with women like that. Like, I'd rather have something stable in my life here, and then I can get on and make the better use of the rest of my time, rather than giving most of it to dating and multiple women, especially when they're strangers and they deserve much less. But when I decided this person is worth it, I let everything out, and we both felt a sense of liberation when I felt she was kind of being honest and I was being completely honest. So I don't know about them, but it's great for you. It's really great the more honest you are. But when you can't be honest, that's crippling too. Like I said, I found it disappointing later on, where I couldn't have deep, meaningful conversations. I started to realize she didn't have a deep and rich inner life, and I couldn't share these conversations with her. And then I couldn't share my videos with her because she'd disparage them and she'd think they're stupid. And then if we broke up, I think I don't want someone doxing and deleting my channel and being vindictive. And so, especially initially, as much as you can, but if you need to keep things away from them because you think it serves no purpose, it's a tricky one. But yeah, I just know you feel better the more honest you are, but you need to also protect yourself too. You're not going to go around giving everybody a PIN number or inviting everyone into your home before you trust them. So there's the point of trusting a person, and that only you know when you feel like you can trust them. So there's no kind of objective time, but that's, again, you being honest with yourself and not ignoring the red flags and knowing when to leave if it's not working. Okay, let's continue. Make sure you highlight your questions, guys, with emojis or symbols so I can actually see them properly as questions. Polonium says, my honesty with a person runs parallel with the level of trust I have with them. Yeah, that's pretty much mine. I've always said I don't raise my standards above the person I'm dealing with. And, you know, especially on the topic of, you know, human, why didn't your last ex-girlfriend know about your channel? You're a hypocrite. It's like I knew how much the repercussions of her knowing about it, potentially her ruining my channel. And also, she didn't like talking about this stuff. She was annoyed when I broached philosophical and deep topics, and I knew I couldn't talk to her much. Now, you guys can say, well, that's hypocritical. I agree, but by the time I realized, as my channel grew, that I couldn't, I value my channel. I get a lot of enjoyment doing this stuff with you guys, sharing videos, having these kind of discussions, sharing my writing and thoughts and things like that. And I kind of, like Polonium said, honesty with a person runs parallel with the level of trust you have with them. And also level of interest. Like, if my partner isn't into cameras, I'm not going to force cameras down their throat. And again, if it doesn't have anything to do with them, they have no interest, then it's not something like, again, you might say I'm justifying things, but things that will directly affect the foundations of your relationship, like, I'm married, I've got a kid and I don't tell her about it, I've got some incurable disease, I'm starting a serious relationship with somebody, but I know I'm leaving in a month and I don't tell her, I just want to get her into bed, or whatever it might be, you know. But again, it's up to you and what you can live with. Highlight your questions, guys, and make sure you highlight them so I don't miss them. Otherwise, I probably will. We've got about 200 people on at the moment. This is an interesting one. Mike says, there was a girl who slept through my favorite movie. That's when I knew she wasn't the one. That's an interesting one because my ex played along initially with a lot of what I was into. And when I'd ask her to watch, have you watched this movie? And it was a very, very popular movie, a classic. It might be science fiction. Like, I'm into science fiction and thrillers and stuff, mature things with a lot of depth, story, intellect. It's not surface level BS. And I can watch those movies too. You know, I can watch throwaway movies too. But the meaningful stuff that I really wanted to share, it's kind of like, have you seen this? And you go, no. I go, really? You haven't seen that movie? And then I'll watch it. And you could tell it wasn't her thing, but she watched it for me to get to know me. Very quickly, it was like, I'm not watching those movies anymore. I'm not into them. Whereas you'd do it for her, and then you slowly start to go apart. So yeah, movies that you're not into, because you might think on the surface they're nothing, but the movies have in them values and things and interests that you do. And if you can't share those sides with this person, you have to enjoy them on your own. And that's, like I said, with my channel and philosophy and really deep conversations, having a deep, rich inner life. If the person's saying, oh, I'm not into that, that's stupid. Like, you know what? Can you stop? You're overthinking things. It's like, okay, all right, I'm not going to argue. It's nothing to argue about. It's kind of like, I'll enjoy it on my own then. But then if where you have a lot of your enjoyment on your own, then you're just slowly catching up with this other person as just kind of a real vanilla type female object that you enjoy sleeping with, and just, you know, the touch of their skin, which it ended up being with me and my ex. It was just kind of the superficial stuff. And she wasn't a bad person. She didn't treat me badly. She didn't, you know, abuse me or anything like that. But then the more you reveal that the important stuff that lights your fire, they don't like, you can't share with them. It's, what's the point, really? You feel like you're in a very dull prison, or locked in a job you don't like. Rather than when you're with your friends or on your own, you feel alive. But with them, you feel, you know, half asleep. You can only spend so much time half asleep, and you'd rather go home off on your own. Garuda Ghost says, human lying is a sign of being trapped in your own matrix. Yeah. Nils says, can women really handle honesty? I'd say generally no. Not as much as guys. Again, there's variations depending on you as an individual, man or woman. But I say in general because women operate covertly in life. They're not direct. So they manipulate the situation. They present themselves in a certain way to get people to look to... so they're less direct than men are. Men have to be more direct, otherwise nothing happens with men, whether it's with women or the world. Women can just place themselves in front of the world or in front of men, and men approach them or act on them. So men act, women don't act as much, not directly. Women are very indirect, sub-communication, things like that. Men have to be direct, which is another way when you sort of see, they complain, oh, men just kind of ogle women, like, oh, they're like dogs looking at a woman they like, whereas women, they can be looking in this direction and their peripheral vision is obsessed with a guy they find attractive over here. So the way women operate to get what they want, where they focus their attention, is a lot of kind of... they'd be good spies, and they are. He continues, can women really handle honesty? They often say they can, but then come the repercussions. Yeah. You hear a lot of women say, yeah, I want a man who's honest, no more games. And you're honest, and it's not romantic, first and foremost. And a lot of romance to many women is lying and giving them beautiful lies. And two, they feel hurt because they've got a lot of insecurities. Because look at the contradiction. If you're a person that's always obsessed and insecure about don't lie, don't lie, don't lie, don't lie, you've got this insecurity. You want, whereas that's not the first things I'd say. What are the qualities I'd want in a woman? First and foremost is a kind person, a good nature, not someone who's going to bust my chops, and just like a general, like I'm trying to describe their character. But when you hear women focusing on like, I don't want a guy who plays games, and I don't want liars. They're very big bugbears for women. They're about the only thing they care about. They don't talk about any other kind of values. So that, I think, belies a problem they might be having too. Again, I'm talking from a guy's point of view. Hey, Quasi-Man-Dias, how are you, man? He says, it seems there's a pretty major difference between one, being deceitful, and two, withholding a truth because you can't trust the other. That's true. And the people, I think, that shame you to be completely honest and don't care about the things you know that if you're completely honest, you're one of the few people in the situation, or generally, that is being completely honest and exposing yourself in your life to a degree that tomorrow you could be ruined and sunk. And other people like it, sure, because they're not risking anything. But if you're aware of, if I step over this line, I'm risking a fair bit. So you should be able to exercise your own judgment. That's a tricky thing, I think, with a lot of guys who want, they're alone, want affection, and they're with a woman they don't feel comfortable with, and they've got their limits, but they know she's going to take off if they don't extend this oversharing. Perhaps it will work, perhaps it won't. What if it doesn't? She might leave anyway, laugh at you, and you've exposed something privately. Let's just say as personal as, here's the PIN number, here's my bank account. You know, I'm being surface level, but still, it opens you up to a lot of risk to someone you don't know. Let's not forget, trust takes time. What annoys me so much is that people demand you trust them. Trust is earned. And how great is it when, like for me, when a woman finally trusts me with something I know is sensitive to her as a woman, and I can understand the reasons why she kept something from me. Not like, hey, human, I was married and I didn't want to tell you because I knew you'd leave if you found out. Well, guess what? I'm going to leave now anyway. But if it's something like she was abused, or if she was basically information, if you unload it on the person before you get to trust what kind of temperament and personality and values they have, whether or not they're worthy of them coming to that space that you don't tell anyone. And as such, you know you can, take a breath and tell this person something very personal that very few or anyone knows about, and they accept you because you've had an inkling that you've got to the point of being able to trust them, then your relationship is stronger. But if you trust everybody, you trust nobody. You've got no you've got no compass by which to really know who friends are and know who good people are. And society wants you to trust everybody, but at the same time, limit your own speech. How does that make sense? Like, you can't say this word. What's wrong with that word? It's not even a curse word. It's offensive. But be completely open and tell me all of your secrets. Tell everyone your secrets. Doesn't make sense. It's designed to ruin people. It's designed to have people have no boundaries, no individual, personal, strengthened, self-righteous, introspective, I know myself boundaries. John says, but what if the concerns you are keeping bottled up are related to actual PTSD? It seems fundamentally unfair to share all such information It is an incredible struggle. It's true, but something like what I just mentioned before, if as you're getting to know the person, parts of your, say, CPTSD, or I'm pretty sure there's part of it that's going to express itself through your character and mannerisms, or certain situations. They're going to understand, well, humans a bit this way when it comes to this topic or that topic. And if they find it interesting and can engage with you in those conversations that you find touchy or passionate or whatever, right? Basically something that makes you react in a certain way, negatively or positively, and they can engage and jump in with you sympathetically and even intellectually, where they're not offended and they're not extreme or overly judgmental, but interested intellectually or what have you, or interested in you. That can get you to trust them later down the line, if you so choose, with something like PTSD. And that's when you know you've got someone you can be sort of have a depth with. So yeah, I'd say it's, again, you have to come to a point of trusting a person. As Quasimodo said, there's a difference between being deceitful and withholding the truth. If there's something that's yours, that's got really nothing to do with anyone, but they demand, no, you hid it from me. It's mine to hide until I can trust you. Here's another way of looking at it. Why don't I trust you? Again, it's nothing to do with you. You don't deserve to know everything about me unless it's directly affecting you. What is it about you and us that doesn't allow me to trust you? I don't trust you with this yet. I'm offended. I don't care. This is mine. It's not yours to take. It's mine to give. I'm sorry if I come off a bit blunt. I'm tired, especially of people demanding through their own insecurities and entitlement that what you should freely give from yourself, that they should be grateful for. Their response should be, oh, thank you. Or even if they don't say it, they should feel closer to you, this person sharing something with me that they don't or they find hard to, rather than like royalty, I'm offended. I should have known all of this from the start. Go take a flying jump. JRDW says, being honest is basically a man's crap test. She bails, she fails. Yeah, like I say, like, if there's something you openly want to talk about, say, that's not really something you need to trust someone with, like your opinion generally about expressing who you are, be honest, guys. Because if that at the start, a person can't take your opinions of the world, relationships between men and women, your views if they're antiquated or more modern, basically expressing who you are generally as a personality, be completely honest, guys. Completely honest, because the sooner that person can bail if they don't like you, the better. But if that person can refreshingly think, oh, wow, this person, like, I find them interesting. Yeah, I thought that too. Yeah, I thought modern society is stupid too. Yeah, I think men and women don't treat each other well. Great. There's a step closer to intimacy. Because this kind of lying, politically correctness, staying on the surface, it keeps us all unintimate, it dehumanizes us, pardon the pun, and it makes your life less enjoyable. And what happens is, I'll isolate myself because, yeah, life on your own as a hermit is much better than being an actor in this tepid little patina of surface level chit chat where you talk about the weather and you don't offend anyone, but yet everyone wants you, it wants you exposed, wants you naked, but they're fully clothed. Tyler says, have others experience the catch-22 of he doesn't share, he doesn't communicate versus he's only passionate about not her. Does this mean in this example she wasn't the object? I'm not sure what you mean there, Tyler. Can you maybe rephrase that? But I kind of resonate with the he doesn't share, he doesn't communicate. Although when you look at her, it's kind of like most women, the way they operate initially, they're very passive. I can understand they're more vulnerable naturally as a female animal of the species, so they can't be too open and vulnerable. But at the same time, you can't demand like be open, be open, be open, and I'm going to completely be shut and I'm just going to mirror you. Well, apparently it doesn't matter. Like I actually popped out the comment screen on its own and expanded it, and I thought that's going to stop the stream jumping. It doesn't stop it. Sorry guys. I thought I would be able to finally stop saying, "Ooh, big jump." One or two people have said I should actually print a t-shirt that says "big jump." "1987 IULI says, and then why do women still go to school? I thought it helped to communicate better." I don't think school helps anyone communicate better. School today is just a system to formalize you, not to educate you. I mean, even me back in the day, I only started to educate myself out of school. I was stifled by school. I wasn't educated at all. I was probably educated in certain ways, like being around people, but in terms of like my own thinking, and nah. Who I was educated outside of school, outside of university. I think it's the same as even jobs. You learn all your skills when you're on the job. I can't remember anything really that helped me in university, other than being on my resume to get the job in the future. EOS Log says, one of the things that resonated with me in one of your previous lives was the idea of don't do the right thing at the expense of being used and rambling on to friends about it. Don't do the right thing at the expense of being used, yes, and rambling on to friends about it. Did I say that? Rambling on to friends about it. In what context, though, connecting those two phrases? I can see myself saying don't do the right thing at the expense of being used. Rambling on to friends about it. Quasimandias says, the main problem men face with honesty is that when it is offered, the female internalizes it, makes it personal. Whether that's appropriate or not, she often responds to honesty with anger. Yeah, unfortunately, with women, their instinct is they make everything personal. You even look politically with the capital F women. The political is personal. Abstract or objective third person viewpoint is much more a male thing as a reflex. So, like if a woman, I know for myself, I don't know you guys, but and generally I get this notion from most men. If you're in a group, or big or small, and someone says to you, "Oh, men are blah blah blah," I won't think of myself. I'll think of, is that true? What? Oh, no, actually, because the stats say this. Or no, actually, because the stats and my empirical experience. But women is like, everything is personal. Any abstract thought is personal. Any observation of a general umbrella idea is personal. If it's not self-referentially female or directly female focused, they're not that interested. They don't know what to say. But if you touch on something where a woman can place herself literally as an actor in that scenario, it's all reference from her. Whereas a guy can look at it as a stage play and going, men like cars. Oh, they're on the stage. There's a guy. There's cars. Do men like cars? When you say women like romantic movies, she's not watching women on the stage liking romantic movies. She's placed on stage and she's the actress going, I don't like romantic movies. That's untrue. So women's self-referential point of view is very, very different from my experience. It's proven itself to be right so often that it's so rare that a woman's response can be as abstract as my comment was intending or trying to talk about. They're very self-referential. And I'm not saying it to rag on women. It's just the way they react. And kudos to the woman who can take an idea as an idea and not take everything personally. And society makes them take everything personally because advertising responds for people towards people taking, being emotionally responsive to things. And that is, you take things personally. We're no more emotionally responsive as to when we take it personally. When it's abstract, we can sort of take things at arm's length and discuss things intellectually and philosophically. But you jump on it when you take it personally. You defend something when you take it personally. Whereas I can have a conversation about ideas, but I don't get my sword out and look to have a figurative fight and defend myself with ideas. And the other thing is, if you're always defending yourself with ideas, you can never get to the depths of it because someone's always trying to cut you down at the doorway of getting through that next step. Good point. Christ, can you imagine me on a date? Can you kind of imagine my dating life and the small amount of women who can tolerate my personality? EOS logs, how would you say that relates to lying to a partner? How would I say what relates? The stream is lagging for me, so I can't guess it was just about what I was saying. It might have been something I talked about before. Sorry, EOS logs, can you rephrase that later as I scroll down the comments section? Berserker 100, human, what personality type are women attracted to the most? Like the millionaire from 50 Shades of Grey, king type, toxic gangster, leader, the hood, they couldn't be more different. Women like the best of the best. Men like the best of the best in a female archetype too. I don't care what your taste is. I'd say 99% of guys would say a hell yeah to a Victoria's supermodel, Victoria's Secret supermodel, and then maybe be deterred if her personality was just knocked her down a few pegs. In the same way, women find it hard to say no to a charismatic billionaire with abs. Human nature. Yeah. In all honesty, men know what they find hard being able not to say no to. So in a female sense as well, you don't hate women for it. It's kind of like, yeah, natural. That's what they respond to in the same way we respond to certain things. I'm not giving them a pass. I think people should be honest, and what annoys me is you say you're not, it's not about money. It's all about personality and trust, but then people live their lives completely differently. That's what annoys me. You talk to people who are lying to themselves and lying to you, or maybe just lying to you and not lying to themselves. Like they're putting on an intentional mask to use you and get something out of you. Again, back to the topic of this stream, honesty. Honesty in your life is better. Black Magic says, honesty can swing a woman two ways. Disgust or intrigue, to know why. Exactly, yeah. Intrigue, discuss the intrigue. That's a tricky one. Again, get to know the person, see how much you can trust them. But especially in the initial stages when you're getting to know someone where you do start to like them, I want to be as honest as I can, as quickly as I can, for them to get to know who I am, because I don't want to get to know you with me having a mask on. I want to like you more and more the more and more you know who I am. The more and more I can, you're saying, expose who you are with honesty, whether it's shock and awe. If I might shock a woman with some piece of information about my past and she doesn't get disgusted, but she's like, oh, she finds it refreshing or a turn on where other women might be disgusted, that lets you know, okay, this person is into the same things as me. I feel I can trust her more with other things. So I'd say rip the band-aids of honesty off sooner rather than later with someone you're liking and falling for. Obviously, the limits of you don't want to share something before you're ready, or if it doesn't work out, she can permanently ruin you if she happens to be a psycho later on. You need to take care of yourself as well. Polonium, thank you for the donation. I appreciate it. He says, totally support the serious intellectual approach. There's nothing more alpha than knowledge. Alpha. I wouldn't use the word alpha, but I know what you mean. There's nothing more masculine than knowledge. Excuse me. And the application of it. Okay. The next comment by Daniel. He said, I think most people holding themselves back. This reminds me that what these idiotic pickup artist coaches teach you, that you should be mysterious and always hold back your true self. Yeah. And the whole thing is a game. Mainly this depends on personality and experience. I think many people realize after a while that most people really appreciate authentic, honest people, just like you've said. However, I think this has not only to do with social media. There are many other older people who never use it, and they are even more dishonest to themselves and even more got used to playing a role instead of being themselves. Yeah, that's true. I mean, not that social media should be an excuse as well. You can't say, I was born in social media, so again, I get a pass. But I agree, yep. Stan says, I don't throw honesty around like a sledgehammer, but learning to come off autopilot, to stop saying mindlessly the thing you're supposed to say just to get along. I agree. I'm sick of that too. And you're more consciously you operate with people better. You listen to them better. When you're consciously not just saying what you should say, you're actively talking and speaking your words consciously, but you're also, you tend to consciously be listening to the person. Because when you're on autopilot in speaking, especially of chit-chat, you're on autopilot, you tend to be in terms of listening as well, or the lack of it. He continues, just to get along, has been vital to improving not only interactions with others, but having more pride in myself for being more authentic. Yes, the potential losses are minuscule. Any relationship, friend, or partner in your life where you go along to get along just feels empty. I completely agree. Openness and soft honesty has been like a leaf blower, blowing useless relationships out the way, making a much clearer path ahead. That was a nice analogy. I like that. Soft honesty has been a leaf blower, blowing useless relationships out the way, making life much clearer. I'm going to try and remember that. That was a nice analogy, Stan. Thanks for that. Thanks for some new faces here. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We've got about 250 people at the moment. Tyler M says, have you noticed a liar seems to like another liar because to be a good liar that gains with their lies, they need to know the truth? Yeah. What's that saying? Something about certain types of people being together. I'm usually good with sayings. Birds of a feather, something like that, flock together. But something to do with thieves. Anyway. But yeah. Similar people relate because of the familiarity. They recognize something in the other that they know about themselves without maybe being even conscious about it. Say if it's someone who's perverted in a certain way, notices another person is perverted and they can finally be like that with them. Oh, I can I recognize that. I can be open with them because they're a weirdo. You got to find your own weirdo, I suppose. Remember, highlight your questions, guys, otherwise I might not see them. Neil says, how many guys have you heard that she was never told something to anyone else, but you have gotten the privilege now? Yeah. Or or when a woman goes to bed with you or does something pretty quickly. I never do this with any other guy. Okay, sweetheart. Okay. You're special. Yeah, you're made to feel special. True Lies comes to mind straight away. Great movie. Yeah, I agree. What did I watch the other night? I watched with my family. We watched True Lies. Great movie. True Lies. Underrated. James Belushi. Arnold Schwarzenegger. You wouldn't think I appreciate those movies, but I do. The 80s and 90s were great for films, especially the 90s. Bradle says, if they demand openness from you, particularly when disproportionate or unnecessary, be sure it's a sign of deflection from their dark box of secrets. Finger pointing often means three pointing back. Anyone demanding you give them something or they're owed something from you that you can objectively see, like, no, that's mine. Whether they're personal things, things that need to be earned, that if you're talking to a friend, right? We're not talking about a relationship. If you're just talking about values and you say, well, do you agree? Like, you don't have to share with this with somebody straight away. And they'd say, yeah, you're right. That's earned. But then when you talk to a potential girlfriend, it's like, no, you have to tell me everything. Well, I mean, you can see it's more for their insecurities than really for anything in the relationship at the moment. It's all about them. Spec Ops, Women and Intellectual Conversation, LMFAO. Soul Rebel things. I think you can slow down the chat from your end. Slow-mo. Seen it on high traffic feeds. Is there? Manage moderations, participants. I can't see any slow-mo. If you guys know, let me know what I have to click on, because I don't want to screw the feed up or end the chat prematurely. How long have we been going for? Just over an hour. Okay. Omega Sigma Human, could women's loose relationship with the truth be partially explained by the fact that they seek female approval to support in-group preference, through deceit rather than honesty? That's a very good point. Women you look at them in the schoolyard, the games they play. Look at the I can't even say the word, catty women's movies that they watched when they were younger, where women psychologically tear each other apart. And so women are always operating covertly or one step back or not being honest because they're worried about being destroyed and ruined and abused and taken advantage of. And they start earlier on, not with men. They start with other women. I've heard from a lot of women that the way women can be with each other psychologically, and they've got no qualms about ruining a girl's reputation. That's a good point, actually. Women's loose relationship with the truth is partially explained by the fact that they seek female approval to support. Yeah, women don't like shame, particularly from other women. They're very worried about how other women see them, how they can shame them, and how they can put them down, and their social approval through the eyes of other women. I mean, you look at my sister once told me this. It's quite right when you look at it. You look at women's fashion on the runway. Look at the stupid outfits they wear. It's nothing that men like. Men laugh at it. Men think it's stupid. They don't care. It's women's approval. It's what women like. So yeah, there's a lot of that. That's a very good point. Thank you, Omega Sigma. Tyler, I think he's relating to a question I was unsure of that he asked before. He says, what I meant is, it's a lie to say he doesn't share, he isn't passionate, but then complain that I am only passionate about my camera. She means you're not obsessing over me. Yes. Okay, I get you now. Yeah. So when she's using the overarching term of, oh, you're not open, you're not passionate. It's like, I'm passionate everywhere else, but not with you. You're doing this to me. You don't respect me. You don't respect my boundaries. You don't allow me to open up. Not allow me, but I don't trust you enough to share these things or do these things. Or if I do, you laugh at me, make fun of me. You say no. So why would I? So that's true. It's not that you don't share, or you're not open, you're not passionate. It's because you're not doing what she wants you to do, or you're not obsessed over her. Ibrahim says, I would highly suggest human needs a schizoid girlfriend. Maybe. Does that mean I'm schizoid? Lat says, Victoria's Secret model. No thanks, I'll pass. Yeah, I'll pass too. It's funny, when I was in my 20s, it was all about looks. I did not care 1 inch what a personality was like. I mean, it stands to reason. In your 20s, both guys and girls, like, you haven't even developed your personality that much. You don't know who you are. You start thinking about yourself and the world in your 30s mostly, from my experience, both personally and other people. The rare individual matures and introspects earlier on. But in your 20s, it's just looks, and biology. And in my 30s, slowly, I started to be suspicious of the supermodel, gorgeous woman that's a 10 out of 10. And in my 40s, it's kind of like I'm very skeptical of any woman who's just all beautiful supermodel looks. Usually, there's nothing beyond it. And most of the time, I'm proven right. It would be very interesting to be proven wrong, but someone's actually now using a whippersnipper or chainsaw. So apologies if you can hear something. Yeah, I'll pass on the supermodel. I've told you before, I'm an odd kind of person. I like a bit of character. I like women with something odd about them, a quirk. You know, big nose, one ear bigger than the other, a raspy voice. I distrust synthetic perfection, like, you know, what they plaster up as the perfect figure, the perfect symmetrical face. To me, that's fairly dead. I'm not just saying it for effect. As I've gotten older, to me, it's just like the same kind of Kardashian coming out of a sausage factory. It's like a product. Whereas the less of a product it is, visually, the more I'm inclined to trust that there's actually an individual behind that. But if they look like a commercial product, their personality is probably the same commercial, politically correct product as well. Or nothing to say, no rich inner life. Remember, highlight your questions, guys, because I'm just going down the list and reading people who have put emojis or highlighted or super chatted questions. EOS Log says, how does not telling a woman take advantage of your morality and you doing the right thing, relate to you lying to them, and the idea of game in general. I'm not sure in terms of game theory or gaming women in terms of PUA, because I'm not really into that. But I am one for being more honest. It's one of those things where your own morals or something in you feels uncomfortable and you want to be as open and honest as possible. But if you know you don't trust the person and objectively it has nothing to do with her and you need to trust her enough with it, like for instance, guys, money. If you were a millionaire and you took your time in terms of trusting a woman with your money, and you've had bad experiences in the past and you've let her know, look, women have just gotten me for my money, or they like me for this reason, and I'm tired of it, and I get my heart broken, and I don't want to waste time. I want to make sure before I share this with a person. Now, the money has nothing to do with the woman, or shouldn't, according to what women say. But then later on, they'll feel offended, like, why didn't you tell me you owned a yacht and Bugatti Veyron and that skyscraper in the city? But what has that got to do with you? So, yeah, I'd say if it has nothing to do with the core of your relationship and a woman gets offended, you shouldn't feel compelled to share something that you've worked hard for, that's nothing to do with them. That's just me. Again, every person has to be able to sleep at night. That's the important thing. And allow you to be as open and honest with her as possible when you're with them. But if you always feel like you're hiding something big, if you're comfortable about not revealing something before it's time and you're calm about it, that's different to hiding and obviously lying in terms of, would you feel offended if this person hid this from you? If the answer is no, then you feel you have nothing to worry. Same as me before. Like when I didn't share my channel with my ex-partner because I knew she had no appreciation of it and she may potentially ruin it later. And I thought, what if she did it to me? It's like, I wouldn't care. It's got nothing to do with our relationship. If she told me she had some side passion on the side that she did and she knew I didn't like it, or I made jokes about it, or whatever. Like, she just kept it to herself. It's like, it's got nothing to do with me. But that's me. You need to sort of be able to live with your own life. Vention, how you going, man? I hope you're doing okay. He says, when dealing with governments or corporations, I'll be as honest as they are. Exactly. I've said before that you don't raise your standards more than the person you're dealing with. If you're wondering what this is usually the pop filter on my microphone that I've decided to take off and see how it sounds without it. I'm trying to use proper microphone technique. For those of you who are interested, when you're talking to a condenser microphone, have your eye level to the capsule. You talk just below it so you don't get any plosives into the capsule. You're about that far away. Anyway, back to the topic of the stream. Our Vention continues, I'll be as honest as they are, meaning totally amoral, just as they are. My honor is reserved for actual people. Yes, I agree 100%. Okay. What are you drinking? It's almost gone. It's just tea. I'm trying to cut back on my coffee. I usually have coffee. Yeah, I'm trying to be better. Boffin, how are you, man? He says some of the best lies come in the form of flattery. Yes, very, very good point. Sometimes it's what you want to hear. You think this person's great. Maybe they're just flattering you, or maybe they're flattering your values. That's a very good point. Polonium says the best lies are told in front of the victim. For example, I think Human is using this super chat for some questionable money laundering operation. Really? Yeah, so is YouTube. You can tell a lot about a girl. You can tell a lot about a girl by her friends if she appears good, but her friends aren't. She's quite likely just like them. That's true. Her close friends, she's usually probably like them in a big way, or she's a carbon copy. There's no way you can have close, long-lasting friends where when you're with her, she's completely different. Oh, great. I thought I bought my glass of water, but I didn't. Neil says, Human, what is the biggest lie that men tell themselves with women and within themselves? They believe what they hear from a woman, I'd say is the biggest. Instead of trusting their judgments, not switching off their prefrontal. Like, it's all well and good to know this stuff, but then switching it off and believing the lie in front of you, that's the thing. Sam says, continuation on women wanting women's approval. Is this hive mentality to blame for the loose grip on truth because the truth changes with the hive? Yeah, it's always moving. They're always using sophistry and gaslighting. They're always creatively adjusting the truth to survive within the catty women's environment. So they have no problem with using words like magic, as TFM says. Words don't have a meaning. There's no concrete set in stone, okay, this means this. Oh no, it means anything I want it to mean, so I survive. Shadow Ghost, thank you for the donation. I appreciate it, man. He says, how do you tell if you're lying to oneself, to yourself? You know when you're lying to yourself. Like, again, the saying is you don't really lie to others, you lie to yourself first, especially. So all lies, you know you're lying. Sometimes you go, well, okay, I feel a red flag. I don't want to tell her. Again, you're lying to yourself because you've noticed something. Acknowledge what you notice in your head, and if you have to, speak it and ask it. But if you're thinking about it, if you don't want to address it, if you don't want to speak it, if you don't want to ask it, you're lying. When you go to sleep at night alone, you're thinking about it, you're kicking yourself, I should have known better. You know you're lying. So if you're unsure, that's different. If you're confused, that's different. But if you time and time again ignore your instincts, you ignore the red flags, you ignore, oh no, I think and see this, but I won't say anything, you're lying to yourself. What are your instincts telling you? If that makes sense. So it's not a clear-cut answer, Shadow Ghost, but when you're alone, what you think about, what does the truth seem to you? What does honesty seem to you? And are you acknowledging those ideas and truths in front of people, or are you just covering them up? Are you getting along? Are you not speaking, my ideas and thoughts, because no, they won't like it. I don't want them to get upset at me. General Veers, thank you for the donation. He says, I wish I was a gladiator, 8 foot tall. My selection of women would be... the selection of women would be the women out there. The pickings are slim. I mean, not all guys are prize pigs themselves. But, yeah. I wouldn't like to be a young guy dating in the world today. Whether you were rich and 8 foot tall or not. It's not that just that the rules are unknowable. It's you don't even know what they are now. Like it used to be, you'd talk to some stranger, and there'd be unspoken rules, social norms. Like now, there's no social norms. Everyone's approaching everyone hesitantly and walking on eggshells because there's no social shorthand by which we can kind of just relate to strangers and kind of break the ice. Just even breaking the ice lexically and like with your ideas and thoughts and being able to be who you are. You can't even show who you are. The safest way is to present a politically correct avatar to everybody and talk about the weather and pretend to be worried about things that everyone should be worried about without actually being, you know what, like I don't really care about that. You're conditioned not to be yourself. And as such, you're conditioned to be alone. The less you can be yourself, the more you're going to be alone. Here, especially. And here. Exploding Head Trick says, it's said that you need to hit bottom before you can truly pick up and improve oneself. As a collective, what do you picture that would be for the sisterhood? Yeah. Take welfare and all the concessions away. Take affirmative action away. Make everything basically... make everything earned. Go back to a lot of that. None of the political truths. Make them more objective, human, hierarchical, merit-based. What was it? It was equal playing field, not equal outcomes. Get rid of the equal outcomes. Get rid of the concessions. Get rid of favouring women above everyone else. You know, philosophically favour everyone. Philosophically make it consistent and equal. Open playing field so everyone, based on their will, drive and ability to give and be rewarded for their will and drive and effort. Give those people something. You don't give, this is a stupid thing, you give people who are lazy everything. It demotivates people who were willing to give more anyway, and it retards society. Yeah, you need to take a lot of stuff away from women for them to collectively hit rock bottom, because right now, women generally and figuratively are rich celebrities who can do no wrong. You know, like the you can be a pig and everyone tells you, and you lie to yourself saying that you're beautiful inside and out. You could be externally and internally a wretch, but everyone has to say I'm beautiful and a wonderful person and I've got a beautiful soul and I can spit and yell at others and I look like a fat mess. Tyler says, I've always been afraid to have kids with someone that had a lot of plastic surgery. Yeah, me too. Talk about an obvious red flag. A lot of mental red flags in that one. It's talk about advertising. It's like, thank you for externally showcasing your internal trauma. In my opinion, most of PS... What's PS? Plastic surgery is one demanding to live a lie. Yes, thoughts. Yeah, I mean, it used to just be push-up bras short skirts, basically, and lipstick, makeup. But now it's kind of like they've cartoonishly exaggerated themselves to the point of, if you saw a woman just out of the shower without makeup and just like normal, natural, it doesn't look like the woman you went on a date with. I hope you can't hear the lawnmower or chainsaw outside. I apologize, guys, but there's nothing I can do. General Viz, thank you for the donation. He says, 8-foot tall gladiator with $1 billion palace. Selection of women would be... You'd find it a lot easier, but again, you'd still need to contend with the quality of women today. Because that's the thing, you get a lot of bimbos. Then again, if that's all you want, fine. You need to protect yourself too. But any woman with values and self-respect, she wouldn't be... You'd think she wouldn't be swayed by that, but then, women have their nature too. It's kind of like even the most intelligent guy. Again, I'll use Elon Musk as a prime example. When it comes to his dating life, he's got the pick of the litter. He makes horrible decisions with women because he has the access to the biological pick of the crop. He's got the access to Victoria's Secret supermodels. Is that the smartest choice? Probably not. But it's like, is a Ferrari or a Lamborghini a practical good choice? No. But I've got the money to throw away on a thrill and hopefully protect yourself from, the risks are recoverable for Elon Musk. The risks are not recoverable for everyday guys like you and me to try and lean into what Elon Musk does and his decision making. Stay in your lane. I mean, he could still get destroyed, who knows, but he's the richest man in the world now, isn't he? So, even if he has to give away half of his fortune, not that he should, but... Marks the Fear says, the worst truth is always better than the best lie. Yes. Thanks for the super chat, General V's. Tyler says, human, everyone lies and must in one respect. Imagine if every new person you... I think I know what you're getting at. If everyone was completely... Say, for instance, you could read everyone's mind. No one would talk to each other. So we massage how we speak and think. But the point is not to completely tell a lie to manipulate and get something from the person. You want to be as comfortable and honest with the person as possible. As Quasimodo said, there's a difference between lying and what was it? And sharing something too soon or something like that. Yeah, Tyler says, imagine every new person you met on their chest, they had a list of 50 most evil things they ever did. Yeah, imagine that. With a woman. Here's the number of people I've slept with. And here's what the most disgusting things I've done in bed. Okay, let's go on to more questions. Which one haven't I done yet? Supreme Canon says, it's easier for women to have superficial relationships because their outer shell is what brings all the men around them, brings all the men around anyway. True. Men have to be maximally superficial just to get a foot on the rung. In the end, I think you just have to make your life about you, because there's really no choice. Loving someone that isn't really there is the definition of idolatry. Yes, that's an interesting point. Yeah, women are superficial because that's what brings men towards them. But because women aren't forthcoming, they act aloof. That's the way they operate. They're using indirect, fake, anything that works, anything that gets me noticed tactics. And then afterwards, I can only imagine women saying, okay, now I have to slowly try and let him know who I am. I'm not used to letting anyone know who I am. Like we mentioned, from the schoolyard, I'm really reluctant to open up completely because women tore me apart. And now these men that I know, men that I kind of less known to be around than women, I know what women are like. Imagine what guys are like, and they're bigger and stronger, and they can physically manipulate me too. I'm even more scared. So I'm even more scared about revealing who I am. Not a good place to be. I wouldn't want to be a woman. Odd Job says, there is a serious lack of directness with the male community. We cannot expect women to be direct because their inherent weakness requires them to be meek. Yes, more of along the lines of what I was just mentioning in the last comment. The passive nature of them. It's hard for them to operate in a different mode now. When a man becomes direct with everyone, he encounters all are placed at ease by his transparency. Yes, good way to be. As much as you can rationally be, and not recklessly be, where if you share too much, you can't recover or your life's ruined. JRDW, she doesn't want to know you. And it's not because you aren't worth knowing, it's because she's so privileged, you aren't worth knowing to her. No man is. Her father wasn't. That's why her mother got rid of him. If you want a woman who cares enough to want to know who you are, you must ask, does she care for her father? Does her mother care for her father? Has she and her mother replaced men with SIMPS and the government and on a case by case scenario? Yeah, I wanted to include this about, that's a good point. How does she see her father? How does she see men? And Caleb says, I consider these vague, avoidant people to be abusive because it's a form of manipulation. If the other person is laying their cards on the table, but you never state your intentions, you can't be held accountable because you never technically broke an agreement. Narcissists love to exist in these technically grey areas. Yeah, that's something to consider too. Imploding Head Trick says, the more female psychology is being revealed and studied, is there anything more heavily used in their MO than plausible deniability? Yeah. Yep. True. All right, guys. That was a good, intense one. Let's cut it short. Let's not go for 2 hours. It's been an hour and a half. A lot of good questions. Thanks for joining in. 270 people. If you've got any quick questions, let me know. Otherwise, let's wrap it up. Healthy Quadrant says, when is it appropriate to lie to oneself? That's an interesting one. Sometimes I do to sort of get myself off my ass. And it's not, is it lying or is it sort of kicking yourself in the ass? Because you can lie to yourself saying, I don't have to get up and go for a walk. That's true. That's not a lie. But you can manipulate yourself psychologically for your own good. Make yourself believe, do you believe the glass is half full or half empty? Which one's the lie? So if psychologically manipulating yourself, I don't think is bad if it's constructive. But not lying to yourself to avoid something where you always wake up kicking yourself, like choosing the wrong people, eating too many donuts, not taking care of yourself, punish, having a bad super ego where you keep punishing yourself all the time. Favorite pickup line. I said it with Spetsnaz's chat yesterday. Hi, how you going? Treat women like you'd treat any other friend. It's surprising just when you're friendly to somebody, how good it is. Imagine trying to operate from a pickup line point of view. Like, you're going to be repeating things, trying to repeat them in different ways, and you're going to be a one-dimensional personality. Polonium, what advice would you give to a teenager on his first date? Similarly, like, go out there and be friendly. Don't go out there and try to impress a woman. Go out there, try and be friends with everybody, including women. Whenever I've gone on dates, I look forward to meeting a new person. That's it. I'm selfishly going on a date to befriend someone potentially, or maybe not. Okay, guys, let's wrap it up. Thanks for rocking up. I'll see you in the next video. Take care of yourselves, and I'll talk to you really soon. Quick question, human. How do you live with yourself without a woman? Excellently, I imagine. Thanks for answering my question. All right, guys. I'll catch you later. All right, bye.